everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We are back here on YouTube, and this week we're spending time talking about how to find the proper length for your wing blade paddle for the surf ski or kayak, and going over power potentials with your tool. Ultimately, the length of your paddle is not a preset number, and there's no right or wrong answer. But today we're going to go over some information to keep you from having a tool that is hindering your progress. The length of the paddle is a reflection of how we are using the tool and how our anatomy is based. Taller paddlers with the longer wingspans naturally would want a longer paddle than somebody with shorter wingspans and limb leverages. But the other thing that we want to look at is your overall boat speed. If you are using a tool with a very high power potential, but your boat speed does not match that, it may mean that your paddle is too long or too large on the blade size. Power potential is the amount of force that your tool can get. The longer the paddle, the longer the leverage is, the more power potential. The larger the blade, the higher the power potential. I think it's important to look at the potential of the tool and work backwards to see, are you tapping into that or anywhere near it? If you are too far away from the potential of the tool, it may be smart to resize the tool to drop that power potential to match what you're looking for. Looking at the maximum output of the tool, there is also a prerequisite base amount of force that you have to find. If you use a 240 centimeter paddle, every time you put it in the water, there is a lot of leverage there. So no matter what you're doing with that tool, the power potential is super high. And if that base power potential is too much based on your overall skill level, fitness levels, cardiovascular levels, it may be holding back your overall potential. Looking at high-level, world-level racers and working backwards from that, it gives us some information. At K1 Marathon Worlds, they paddle for about 2 hours inside of a K1 on flat water. The average speed for winning that event is between 8.4 and 8.5 miles per hour. Most of the racers have a paddle between 208 centimeters, 215 centimeters based on their height. Again, a lot of these world-class racers are very tall. Blade sizes range from 720s up to 760s, somewhere within this range. So all of those specs that I just listed is a very common paddle to end up with at any skill level. And mind you, these racers don't just average 8.5 at one cruising speed. They accelerate, they decelerate, so their average speed are not indicative of how fast they could go on a true time trial. They're racing to win, they're in a draft pack, they have to push, so they're pushing their boat to over 10 miles an hour in many, many bursts. And the power potential is very high. Using a paddle that is at 208 centimeters at 735 blade size can get you a power potential over 10 miles an hour. Working backwards, your average paddler who is not going to be touching 7 miles an hour or maybe struggling to go over 6 miles an hour in general, using a tool designed to go 8, 9, 10, and beyond, you can see how the paddle may be hindering their overall boat speed. Power potential is here, but the output is here. There is some inefficiency that is built into that person's movement, is holding back the boat speed. The purpose of this video is to identify that and change the tool to match what you need specifically. And in almost every scenario, it calls for a shorter paddle with smaller blades. Limitations in technique are the main reason that we're not tapping into the true power potential of the blade. When utilizing a paddle that is a bit longer, we want to make sure that this top hand travels through space in a very meaningful way. We talk about using the hips and legs to power this top hand. It starts in a very specific position. It travels through a very specific position. And you can see all of this length that I'm moving through the air. I want my tool to match this. The more that I can rotate my hips, the more I can get this hand to the side. But now looking at paddlers who don't use their hips, when they move their arm to the side, they cannot get quite as far, right? So my end position is here by breaking at the shoulder, but if I turn my hips, right there, I've just moved another 3 or 4 inches. The other thing is top hand height. Paddlers that catch with their top hand below the shoulder and they come across, this top hand is not going that far. So looking at the length of your typical paddler coming across like so, Why do they need a paddle that is so long if they're not being long with their motion? This is for everybody. If you're not rotating to a literal maximum, you are not mirroring the paddle being used by a true professional. When they're using a 208 centimeter, they're using every millimeter of motion that they can get, versus normal paddlers, we're not getting quite as much every single stroke. The paddle's additional length is now a hindrance. Looking at that again, setting up, coming across, you can see how much my top hand moves through space there. Normal paddling, not moving the hips, top hand very low, coming across, we can see how much shorter this range is. Having the paddle's length match the range that you are going through is vital. Most people do not use their full motion, so they don't really need a full standard blade length. The other aspect of this is leverages on the paddle blade. As we go through, there is a lot of force that my body can produce by going through this very specific range of motion in the seated position. If I am not going through that, the amount of force that I can get on the blade and in the water is very low. The potential is extremely high. The prerequisite amount of force to operate the paddle in a meaningful way is also pretty high. If we don't move in a very specific way, then we are not utilizing the tool, and it's ultimately slowing us down. So the way it would be slowing us down is it's very slow through the water, and it's also too long. Looking at the paddle's length is determining the distance between your pinky and the tip of the blade. The longer that distance is, the longer the blade is going to stay into the water as we're going through the motion. What happens is paddlers will stop short somewhere in their motion because their hips have stopped moving and they're not rotating to a maximum to get the blade out of the water. So as they get to the end of the stroke, the blade is in the water and it's not powered by the larger muscles anymore. So now the hands have to move in some way up or down to get this blade out of the water. The moment the blade is in the water, not powered by our dynamic, powerful hip motion, it means that it can drag for a moment. So you have a blade that is traveling through the water very slowly because it's not being powered properly and it can't move quickly, and it's coming out of the water slowly based on limited motion. The solutions to this, besides improving your technique and getting better with your motion, is shortening the paddle's length. The distance between your pinky and the tip of the blade will get shorter. You always want to keep your hand spacings between both hands the same, but when you shorten and lengthen a paddle, it is going to change this length here. Having a shorter paddle means you're going to engage with the water for a shorter amount of time. But if you have short motion, that is just matching up to how much hip motion you can put into the stroke. The paddle is longer, it is ready to engage the water for longer, but you're not moving into it to power it, therefore it is slowing you down. The shorter paddle has less leverage, it should travel through the water quicker, and it should also exit sooner as you get to a certain point in the stroke. The distance here has run out and the blade is going to come out of the water much sooner. Looking at some of the coaching cues, hey, we need to get your stroke rate from 65 to 75 to 85 and we want to turn over a little quicker. Oh, Robert, I physically can't do that. It just means that the tool is too unwieldy for what they're trying to use it for. As you get better, as you get more fit, the paddle's length will start to increase. The blades may start to get bigger, but don't rush that because it can be a major hindrance to your overall progression. The paddle I've been using in the video is 215 centimeters long at 760 blade sizes. I have the Bracha 11 here. And then the shorter paddle that I use and have used extensively is 190 centimeters. So it's 25 centimeters shorter with a 680 size blade on. Power potential for 190 centimeters at 680 square centimeters from a not professional, not elite racer is able to touch 10 miles per hour. The power potential of these very short, very small blade paddles is high enough to hit the metrics that most paddlers are looking for. You're not going to get your hand up higher because you physically can't, or you just don't want to have your tool match, right? A longer paddle is going to be up here, a shorter paddle is going to be here, a really short paddle is going to be somewhere down here. Giving up the ghost on having a tool that is very large and unwieldy, ultimately hindering your progress, just bite the bullet. Get something a little smaller and you will be very surprised at how much performance you can get out of those tools. As you start to go faster, having a larger paddle and longer paddle, this will all start to make more sense. But don't discredit how much your paddle can be hindering you if you are struggling at low boat speeds. Excellent, thank you guys so much. Don't forget to check out the K2Nonlinepaddleschool.com. We have 300 technique videos and we go over talking about boats, talking about paddles, all the equipment talk to go with the technique talk to making sure honing your movement throughout the stroke. We have off the water exercises that can help you with your posture and mobility and your balance, your movement, and your overall performance. All of these things can help you wield better tools in the future. Big thank you to all the YouTube members that have signed up. All those names are going to appear right here. We will also have a vlog uploaded bi-weekly. Some of this will go over some of the club culture here in Hernando, some training things, learning new things, and overall it's just a laid-back, fun video. We also have the Paddle Pursuit podcast right here. Every Monday we'll have a new guest. Thank you guys so much for checking out the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you all next week for the next paddle tip.